are standing here with the all-new and completely redesigned 2021 Cadillac Escalade. It was unveiled a little bit earlier this year, and now it has arrived. As you can see, the design itself has changed, but this is definitely an Escalade. It cannot be mistaken for anything else. When you step inside, however, that's where you see the major differences between this model and the previous generation. No longer a rebadged and more expensive GMC Yukon or Chevrolet Tahoe. This is its own model. And for a pioneer of the full-size SUV segment, it's finally arrived now at a level that justifies the starting price. So let's get it out on the road and see everything that's new about the 2021 Escalade.
We gotta take a night train to the underground city to rock out this fucking ancient walls. We gotta take a night train to the underground city to make the streamers turn down in reverse. We gotta take on dirty night train. Yeah, we gotta take on dirty night train.
So let's get right into it, what the new 2021 Escalade does very well and what it doesn't do so well. So for starters, this is definitely a more compliant, more comfortable ride than what we've been used to in any Escalade or any GM full-size SUV. They got rid of the live axle in the back, so now it's an independent rear suspension. Makes a world of difference. The last Escalade, it looked really good from the outside, but when you got inside and you drove it, it was like driving a full-size pickup truck. This is not like driving a full-size pickup truck. Very comfortable, very compliant, and very quiet. Number two, I mean, look at the interior. It's just absolutely stunning. The wood trim, this sort of linen finish here on the doors. This beige, particular beige here is called Whisper Beige. It's really, really sharp, and it looks really good, and it just feels so much more refined. The 38-inch screen, which doubles down actually as 3 separate screens, is stunning. It's not, you won't find this in a GMC Yukon or Tahoe, so it really makes a difference, and it makes you feel like you've stepped up. And it's a great place to spend some time. It's super comfortable, and the interior is just very on point from a luxury standpoint.
Hello, mama. Hello, Mr. Grant. My little brother and my good old friends. Sorry, leaders of this dirty trick. But I took my future ride with me, yeah.
I have to say also that performance-wise, again, because of the adaptive suspension and because of the rear independent suspension, sorry about that, what you find is, although it's not a sharp handling vehicle by any means, I mean, this is a 6,000-pound 3-row SUV, it's really agile at low speeds, and when going at very low speeds around sharp corners, the turn-in is just really surprising, and it doesn't feel bulky or heavy like the previous Escalade used to feel. Obviously, being an Escalade and being a full-size SUV, we also have to talk about space, because there's a ton of it inside the new Escalade. It comes in 2 versions in terms of the wheelbase. The ESV is still offered, but this particular model isn't an ESV. And honestly, with the way that the new Escalade is built and the revisions to the chassis and the independent suspension, you no longer have to upgrade to the ESV to get a lot of interior space. The 3rd row will work for adults now, which wasn't the case in the previous short wheelbase Escalade. Now you can really have a lot of people and full-grown adults inside the Escalade, and everybody's going to be comfortable. The main difference between this wheelbase and the ESV is in the trunk. Obviously, the trunk is a lot smaller in this one, but at the same time, it's gotten bigger over the previous Escalade. So in simple terms, when you're looking at full-size SUVs, the Escalade is one of the most spacious options you can buy, and it's also a lot more spacious than, say, a Range Rover or a Mercedes-Benz GLS or a BMW X7. This is on a whole other level in terms of versatility. Obviously, being an Escalade and being a full-size SUV, we also have to talk about space, because there's a ton of it inside the new Escalade. It comes in 2 versions in terms of the wheelbase. The ESV is still offered, but this particular model isn't an ESV. And honestly, with the way that the new Escalade is built and the revisions to the chassis and the independent suspension, you no longer have to upgrade to the ESV to get a lot of interior space. The third row will work for adults now, which wasn't the case in the previous short wheelbase Escalade. Now you can really have a lot of people and full-grown adults inside the Escalade, and everybody's going to be comfortable. The main difference between this wheelbase and the ESV is in the trunk. Obviously the trunk is a lot smaller in this one, but at the same time it's gotten bigger over the previous Escalade. So in simple terms, when you're looking at full-size SUVs, the Escalade is one of the most spacious options you can buy, and it's also a lot more spacious than, say, a Range Rover or a Mercedes-Benz GLS or a BMW X7. This is on a whole other level in terms of versatility. So overall, the Escalade has upped its game in terms of comfort, refinement, technology. This 38-inch screen is just stunning in terms of interior space as well. So everything that it was supposed to do, or that it is supposed to do, it does very, very well, and does on a whole other level compared to the previous Escalade. This isn't a truck with a Cadillac badge. This is a full-size, genuine, authentic full-size SUV. It's not perfect. The first thing we notice, and we're going over some rough patches here, is that although it is more comfortable, it's still a little bit jumpy and a little bit bumpy over potholes and over imperfections in the road. This is not a Range Rover in terms of comfort. It's not a Mercedes-Benz GLS. Part of that is the 22-inch wheels that our fully loaded Platinum model is riding on. But at the same time, when you look at a GLS or you look at a Range Rover, even if you upgrade to the larger wheels, you still have a very impressive level of comfort. The Escalade remains a little jumpy. It's not as bad as the last one by any stretch, but it's still not as smooth as maybe some will want or expect it to be. The engine powering the Escalade is a 6.2 liter V8. We have somebody here trying to show off their own V8. 6.2 liter V8, 420 horsepower, 460 pound-feet of torque. It's a massive engine, it's a reliable engine, but it doesn't provide the Escalade with any kind of performance differentiators compared to a Tahoe or a Yukon. And it doesn't make the Escalade any sporty. It's fine for what it's supposed to do, but you don't get that impressive level of performance that maybe you'd find in a GLS or that you'd find in an X7 or a Range Rover. It's not slow, but it's far from quick. So to sum it up, the Escalade is more refined, more comfortable, but not as comfortable as some of its rivals. More technology, looks great, very luxurious inside. The engine, it's reliable, it does what it's supposed to do, but it doesn't give it any kind of exclusive performance. And there's also, in terms of ride compliance, it's not as smooth as it could be. Now there is one last issue that I have personally with the Escalade, and being a fairly new father, I noticed it right away. There's no sun blinds here. So you can't keep the sun out of your kid's face, which means she will be crying for 2 to 3 hours every time you're on the highway, and your spouse will be freaking out on how to keep the sun out of her eyes. So that's, for me, would be a no-no right away. Maybe there's an option to do it, I don't know, but I noticed it right away. I also noticed it's very sort of a slim little area here, so you can't really just kind of put your elbow on and relax. But at this point, I'm nitpicking because the Escalade, just sitting in here and looking at it, it's so luxurious. And I feel like Cadillac has finally brought the Escalade to where it needs to be, to justify it in the lineup, to justify it as a flagship, and to justify the price over a Yukon or a Tahoe. And the space, you'll never need more space. And you maybe won't even need to buy a minivan, even if you have a large family. Everything will be fine in the Escalade. So great improvements, not perfect, but certainly worth the money.
We gotta take a night train to the underground city.